Insider. Warriors are going after Nic Claxton or Daniel Gafford. Trade close to happening. If you're tired of seeing the Warriors get beaten up, taking second chances, and relying on miracles on the perimeter, you're not alone. Today, an insider reported, Golden State could be going after Nic Claxton or Daniel Gafford, and this trade could be close to happening. In 30 seconds, I'll show you why this makes sense, what the team would gain in practice, and which trade package is more realistic. So you can leave here knowing if this is a real bomb or just a rumor. Let's get to what matters. Before I show you the most realistic package and which one fits the Warriors best, do the following quickly. Subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss any exchange updates, because when the news breaks, we're already here breaking it down. And leave a like, because this sends the video to more people who are suffering from this bottle like us. Activate the bell to receive instant updates, and comment below, Claxton or Gafford. I want to see which side you're on. Closed. So stay with me, because now I'm going to show you why this exchange can change the game, and the detail that almost no one is talking about. Welcome to Warriors Family TV. I want to talk to you calmly, but with the seriousness that the moment demands, because what happened in the last few days says a lot about what this team is today, and about what it can become if it makes the right decisions. Today, we will go through 3 points that connect. First, the energy-filled victory against the Orlando Magic, and it wasn't just any victory, it was a victory with signs. Second, Draymond Green's episode with Steve Kerr, which opened a debate that many people avoid, but that we need to face head-on. And third, a recent report that's been making the rounds, the idea that the Warriors are targeting an athletic center and that there are already specific names on the radar. And first of all, I want to ask you a very direct question. Do you also feel that Golden State is at that stage where any game can become a turning point? Like, either the team picks up for good or the season starts to slip away? Because I have this feeling, and I believe the board does too. Why? Because when a team plays with the energy we saw against Magic, and at the same time experiences episodes of tension and emotional instability within the squad, this is a clear sign that there is talent and capacity, but there is also urgency. And urgency in basketball usually calls for one thing: movement, adjust, replacement, change of route. Let's start with the game. I know a lot of people look at the score and think, okay, we won, but the score only tells part of the story. What caught my attention against Orlando wasn't just the victory. It was the way. It was the team's behavior, the ball moving, decisions being made faster, readings happening without that delay that makes everything predictable. And when that happens, you realize that it's not just a good game. It looks more like a team remembering who they are. I'll tell you what I saw. I saw a Golden State that, for a few moments, regained an identity. A team that is willing to share responsibility. A team that understands that you can't win just waiting for someone to solve it based on individual talent. The feeling is that the group has once again committed to doing the basics well, and when you see a number like 33 assists, that's not a pretty statistic to post. This is a portrait of mentality. Assistance is a consequence of confidence. Confidence in the pass, confidence in the movement, confidence in the teammate, confidence that the play will stay alive. You can't have 33 assists if you're stuck making isolated decisions. And I know someone will say, but they didn't hit threes. Yes, and that is important, because even without the three-ball falling, the team found ways. This shows maturity. It shows that there was a plan B. It shows that the attack was not held hostage by the perimeter. And this is essential for a team that wants to truly compete, because in playoffs and even in heavy regular season games, you won't always have a perfect pitching night. What sustained the victory was the way the team attacked the paint and was efficient inside the arc. And that, to me, connects directly to our third point, the athletic center conversation. Look, when the Warriors attack with intention near the basket, everything changes. The opposing defense needs to react differently. The rotation becomes more vulnerable, and outside shots, when they appear cleaner. And then we need to talk about Steph, because Steph is the emotional and technical thermometer of this team. Even when he isn't converting early in the game, he continues to generate an advantage. Defenses bend, chase, shorten space, and in doing so, he creates opportunities for others. That's a type of and influence that doesn't fully appear in the box score. And that's exactly what happened. Even with a start below his standard, he led the game, organized the chaos, released the ball at the right time, and when the moment arrived, he turned it on. And then the game went in Golden State's favor. It is also worth mentioning the impact of players who do silent work. Because on nights like this, a lot of people only look at who scored, but consistent victory comes from who sustains the possessions, rebounding, defending, reading, extra passes, contesting. And that's when some names gained a lot of value. There's one point I want to highlight. When a team has a night where the supporting players play with clarity and discipline, it changes everything. Moses Moody, for example, being aggressive with responsibility, delivering points and defense, is the type of thing that transforms the team's ceiling. And when he's consistent, the rotation becomes more reliable. The same thing goes for those who offer physical presence and reading in the bottle, even without mastering headlines. Because again, the Warriors have a clear problem in many moments: size, rim protection, physical presence, and rebounding in heavy games. When you can minimize that in one night, you breathe. But to compete in the long term, you need to resolve this structurally. And then the second point comes in: Draymond Green and Steve Kerr. I want to approach this with respect, because Draymond is a player who is part of the franchise's recent history. He's not just anyone. He is at the foundation of what this team has become: defensive intensity, communication, emotional leadership, competitiveness. But precisely because of who he is, any attitude he takes has a double impact. When an episode happens where he leaves the bench, goes to the locker room, and then comes back and is left out, that is not just a hot moment in the game. It's a message. It's a line being drawn. It's the coach saying, there is a limit, there is a rule, there is a group above any individual. And I honestly think this is necessary, because a champion team is not a perfect team. A champion team is a team that knows how to manage a crisis and maintain focus. And if Kerr realized he needed to take a stand, I understand. It's not about chesting an important player. It's about protecting the environment. Because if the atmosphere is lost, you can have the best cast in the world. The season won't go away. The locker room starts to get heavy. The group splits up. And then, instead of discussing tactical adjustments and solutions, you become a hostage to noise. Now let me speak as someone who follows this team closely. Draymond. When he is well aligned with the team, he is an absurd weapon. But when his energy turns into instability, you pay a high price. And this price is not just due to technical fouls or suspension. The price is psychological. It's rhythm. It's concentration. It's a disconnected team in moments that call for coolness. And the most interesting thing is that the victory against Magic also brought this contrast. While the team played lightly, sharing the ball, with good energy, we had a parallel chapter of tension. This leads to an inevitable question. The Warriors today are trying to build a path to stability, and to do that, they need tough decisions. Sometimes the tough decision is internal, behavioral. Sometimes it is external, cast. And now we get to the report that is moving the conversations. According to what is circulating, the Warriors are looking for an athletic center. And it's not just a generic rumor. Names have appeared on a list. And when names come up, it starts to get more real, because the market is like this. First comes the smoke, then comes the list, then comes the real interest, then monitoring. Then either it happens or it becomes a smokescreen for another negotiation. The names mentioned are Daniel Gafford, Nic Claxton, and Robert Williams. What I want to do here is help you think like a fan who loves the team, but also as someone who needs to see the reality of the squad and the competitive ceiling. I don't just want to repeat names. I want to discuss, if it comes, what changes? What is the cost? What is the risk? What is the reward? Let's start with Nic Claxton. Claxton is the type of center that many fans imagine when they say, we need an athletic guy in the paint. Because he's long, he's quick for his size, he contests shots, he changes markings in some situations, he runs in transition, and he's also a strong aerial target. On paper, he looks perfect. He provides rim protection, vertical presence, and is mobile enough not to become a problem in defenses that involve switching and chasing on the perimeter. But here comes the cost. Claxton is not cheap. A player with this profile at this age, with this usefulness, normally requires sacrifice. And sacrifice for the Warriors means draft picks and/or young players who can still grow. And that's where the conversation about Jonathan Kuminga comes in. because every time you hear expensive athletic center, the question is automatically, will it have to involve Kuminga? Many times, yes. And then you need to weigh two things. Kuminga is the future, and at the same time, it is a piece that may not be fully fitted into the present. Claxton is an immediate gift, but requires you to deliver something that could become a large gift tomorrow. So the discussion is not just, is Claxton good? The discussion is, do the Warriors believe that the competitive window calls for maximum urgency? Or do you believe that you can still balance the present and the future without giving too much away? Now let's move on to Daniel Gafford. Gafford has a different profile than Claxton. It doesn't have exactly the same name nor the same headline shine, but he offers very specific things that the Warriors have been looking for: physical presence, rim protection, strong screen, finishing close to the basket, aerial threat. He is a pivot who works well without the ball, and that, on a team like the Warriors, could be gold, because this attack doesn't need a center who asks for isolation, who holds the ball, who maintains flow. It needs a pivot that fits the gear. Block, roll, finish, get rebounds, contest, and come back. And there is an important point: cost and contract. When the player is more financially accessible and does not cost as much as a defensive star, the market doors are more open. But there's also a fair question: why would Dallas give him up? And then there are factors that can happen in the NBA: rotation, fit, prioritization of another player, the need to adjust the salary bill, or even a larger exchange scenario involving more teams. What I like about Gafford is he solves simple problems. And that's often what basketball is all about: resolving the simple to release the complex. If you protect the rim and catch rebounds more safely, you run more. If you run more, you score more in transition. If you score more in transition, you don't depend as much on the half court. And if you don't depend so much on half court, you reduce the pressure on Steph having to create everything. Now, Robert Williams. Robert Williams, for me, is the most delicate name on the list, because the defensive talent exists. It is a natural rim protector. He has a stump instinct. He makes plays that change possessions. The problem is another: availability. The history of injuries weighs heavily. And when you think about investing, even if the exchange cost is lower, you need to ask yourself, am I buying presence or am I buying hope? Because there is no point in having a pivot who, on paper, changes the team, but in the real calendar, cannot be on the court consistently. At the same time, for a team that needs to take risks and try to find value, sometimes the market for physically risky players is the only accessible market, and then the decision becomes a strategic bet. The point is, each of these names offers something, but none come without cost. And the cost isn't just in picks or players. Sometimes the cost is identity, it's chemistry, it's rotation adjustment, it's a change of style. And here, I want to make you think, why is the idea of athletic pivot so strong now? Because the Warriors feel, as we do, that in physical games, against long teams, against opponents that attack the rim a lot, the team suffers. And he suffers not only from lack of height, suffers from lack of verticality and presence. You can be an intelligent, disciplined, and technical team, but if you can't hold back defensive rebounds, if you give up second chances, if you allow easy layups, you lose games that, tactically, you could control. So when you hear size and athleticism, you understand what is being said between the lines. No more relying on heroic effort every game. The season is long. You need solutions that work when power is not at 100%. You need a team that can survive the bad night, because that's what a great team is. They win even when they're not shining. And then I come back to Joe Lacob. When the owner responds to a fan saying that he is frustrated and that he is working to improve, that is not just a sentence. It's a direction sign. It means, I understand that the way it is, it's not enough. And when this hits the media, along with insider reports, the scenario becomes clear. The Warriors could enter the market with strength. Now, I'm not going to promise you an exchange. Nobody can. The NBA is full of noise. But I'll promise you one thing. Here at Warriors Family TV, we will follow this responsibly, with cast reading, with our feet on the ground, and with passion, the way you deserve. And this is where I want to connect with you. If you're someone who's been following this team for years, you know that the Warriors have always been about two pillars. One is talent and system, the other is culture and mentality. When one of these pillars shakes, The team feels it. Today, we are seeing signs that the team wants to find itself again. The win against the Magic was a good sign. Kerr's stance on setting limits was a strong signal, and market rumors are a sign of and urgency. Now, what I want to hear from you is this, and I want you to respond as if you were talking to myself, without a filter. Which of these options makes the most sense to you? If you could choose one path, would you prefer a big investment in a pivot like Claxton, betting on immediate impact even if it costs a lot? A more down-to-earth solution like Gafford, which perhaps costs less and fits well into the system? Or a risky bet with Robert Williams, looking for low value, accepting the chance of not being consistent, and more? Would you give up Kuminga? Would you give up first-round picks? How far would you go to try to improve now? I'm going to close with an idea that, for me, sums it all up. The Warriors today seem to be at a point where they need to decide whether they're going to be a team that waits for things to get better or a team that makes things get better. And this applies to internal behavior. This applies to rotation adjustment. This applies to the market. If you're here with me until now, I really thank you, because it shows that you're not just chasing headlines. You are after understanding the team. So do this. Subscribe to Warriors Family TV so you don't miss the next updates, because if this story progresses, you'll want to follow every detail without noise. Leave a like to strengthen the channel and for YouTube to deliver this content to more fans who also want responsible analysis. And comment below with your choice, NC, DG, or RW, and explain why. I will read and respond as much as I can. And we'll be back in the next video, because if there's one thing this season is proving, it's that every day can bring change. And when change arrives, we want to be prepared to understand what it means. Until next time, and as always, let's go Warriors. And now I'm going to close the way this subject deserves, with clarity and intensity, because the win against the Magic showed one thing. When this team plays together with energy and focus, it still scares anyone in the league. But Draymond's episode also left another message. Without emotional control and internal alignment, any good night can turn into confusion, and no season survives like that. And here comes the decisive point. If this market report is really gaining traction, it's not just about bringing a pivot. It's about sending a message to the entire league. The Warriors are not accepting being left in the middle of the road. Either this team adjusts the squad and strengthens the paint, or it will continue to pay dearly for the same pains: rebounding, rim protection, and second chances. So I ask you, looking in the eye, if the change happens, what name will the Warriors really change? Claxton? Gafford? Robert Williams? Comment now, because what you say here will guide the next videos. And pay attention. If you really want to understand what's behind every rumor, every fit, and every decision, without fuss, without guesswork, I've left a complete sequence of videos in the Warriors Analyzes playlist. It will be in the pinned comment. Click there and marathon, because that playlist is where we connect the dots. Game, squad, locker room, and market, all with context. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and activate the bell, because when the next bomb goes off, you'll want to be here before everyone else. See you soon, Warriors Family TV. And as always, let's go Warriors!